Do you ever feel like peace is elusive, or peace is some long distant idea? Like, is it even possible today? And if you're one of those people who feel this way, it's highly understandable considering what we've gone through since 2020. In the past 3 years, we continue to experience more and more global change with natural disasters, economic instability, job layoffs, and so much more. And while we're not able to control what happens to us on the outside, maybe it's possible that we can control what is happening to us within. I saw a recent study that, according to a Gallup poll, that peace has become one of the top New Year's resolutions. And that was exciting to see, because what does that mean? That means that people are recognizing that you can cultivate peace in your life. And I'm going to share with you in this video 5 steps or 5 ways that you can cultivate peace in your life. And so if you like to have more peace in your life, stick around for this video. Hello, everybody. I'm Keisha Freed of Unlimited for Life. Welcome to my channel where I provide tips, coaching tips for entrepreneurs, creatives, and career professionals on how to maximize your mind, optimize your emotions for an unlimited life. In this channel, this content is also for anyone who simply wants to be the leader of their life. And you don't need to have a title or any position to be a leader of your life. All you have to do is show up for yourself, and I provide tips to help you do that. So in this video, I want to talk about peace. Now, when I say the word peace, what comes to your mind? And just stop and think about that for a minute. So, often when we talk about peace, what typically comes to people's mind may be religion or spirituality, and that's understandable. If you grew up, for example, in a Christian background, you may realize that there are so many Bible scriptures about peace. I want to challenge people that are watching this video on the concept of peace. Peace is subjective for all of us. You may ask one person, what does peace mean to them? And then speak to another, and you may get 2 different definitions. In this video, I am going to take a cognitive approach to peace, the concept of peace. And when I am talking about peace, I am talking about an inner peace and how we can execute various practices to cultivate peace within ourselves and therefore have greater peace in our lives. Now, why is peace important? I know that probably sounds like a ridiculous question. We all want to have this state of peace, but there are other benefits to peace that I like to share with you as a coach, and for those of you who are in leadership roles or who have your own business. When you have peace, one of the benefits is that you are able to see clearly, more clearly, your gifts, your talents, and what's unique about you. And think about it. If you've ever been in an environment, a work environment, where there's a lot of chaos going on, maybe you have a toxic boss or you have toxic coworkers, or just the entire environment is just a mess, you may start to take on some of this negativity and forget what value you have. You may lose track of the talents that you have because there's so much chaos in your mind that you just can't see who you are anymore. I recently saw a beautiful quote that said, "A peaceful mind is a strong mind." And so when we don't have peace in our mind, we are not clear on what's going on outside of us and also what's going on within us. And that includes the talents and the abilities and the unique qualities that we have. So Peace in this video, I'm sharing this for this particular objective so that you can cultivate this and bring forth the talents that you have to your workplace or to your business or to your community. So this idea of cultivating peace may sound a bit ridiculous, but I'm not making this up. I am bringing this from the experts. And even though I am sharing with you today through a cognitive approach, I am going to share a quote with you by the Dalai Lama. And it's one of my favorite quotes about peace. He says, "We cannot have peace in the outer world until we make peace within ourselves." And that quote really jumped out at me because he said, make peace. Now, we have been taught, in a subliminal way through religion and spirituality that peace is passive. Like, peace just happens. If you think about it, we hear people say, I wish you peace, or I hope that this new year brings you peace. When you think about that, it almost sounds like we're just sitting around waiting for peace to happen. So there is an unconscious belief within the status quo that peace is passive. But I want to introduce the idea that peace is actually active. Now, let's think about this in the practical day-to-day reality. When two countries are in conflict, what happens? We have the leaders, or we see the leaders from those countries have a meeting to negotiate terms in order to make peace. So you see, peace is active. If you're having a conflict with a coworker or a conflict with your employee, you have to take actionable steps in order to solve that problem so that you can have peace and the people within your workplace or in your business have, their stability and peace within the workplace environment. So peace is active. So why is it that when it comes to our personal life, we sit around and we say, oh, we hope that we have peace? No. I'm going to show you 5 steps on how to cultivate peace in your day-to-day life. Now, let's keep in mind that we cannot control outside circumstances. So, of course, if you are in a country that is at war, or you are in a community where there is violence, unfortunately, or, you may be in a toxic workplace environment, you may have to take some other steps in order to create peace in your life. But I am just talking about some things that you can do for yourself, outside of those circumstances in order to cultivate peace. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. So number 1, gaining self-awareness. Now, when I talk about self-awareness, I'm not just talking about knowing what kind of food you like or how you like to dress or what kind of car you like to drive. Yes, those things do include self-awareness, but I'm talking about self-awareness on a deeper level, on an emotional and mental level. Do you know what causes you to be stressed out? Do you know how you respond when you are angry? Do you know what causes you to be angry? Do you know what makes you happy? What makes you joyful? Do you know what gives you energy and what things drain your energy? Being able to answer these kinds of questions deepens your self-awareness. And by recognizing what makes you happy, what makes you sad, how things affect you, how behaviors affect you, and recognizing different patterns about yourself, you gain greater clarity of who you are and how you are different from others. Being aware of these patterns and these qualities is the first step to cultivating peace, Because once you are aware, this particular thing triggers me, then you can either learn how to avoid that situation or you can learn how to handle it more wisely. If you know what drains your energy, you can begin to take preventative steps to prevent being drained or being depleted, or you can learn how to manage them. So the first step to cultivating peace in your life is gaining greater self-awareness. And you can do that through mindfulness practices and emotional intelligence, which is something that I help leaders with through my coaching business. So the second step for cultivating peace is being clear about your values, your principles, and living by them. I like the quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson where he says, "Nothing can bring you peace but yourself, but the triumph of principles." How many of us live our lives not being really clear on what our values are? Do you know what types of qualities you want to express or be an example of? Do you know what type of people you want to be around? And do you know what you consider to be best for you and not so good for you? What's beneficial, what's not beneficial? And we're not talking about morals here. We're talking about values, and those vary from person to person. Each person has their own set of personal values. And so what may be good or right for someone else may not be good or right for you. So take, for example, say you are in a workplace and there is a culture of hugging coworkers. Well, for one person who loves to hug, loves to feel a sense of touch, that might be a value that's important for them. But for someone else who wants to be professional, wants to set boundaries, hugging may not be a value that they want to express or participate in a workplace environment. And so that's an actual story from one of my coaching clients. I know that may sound a little surprising, but that's just an example of how values and principles vary from person to person. And so if we are not clear on our values, we may find ourselves doing things that are not beneficial for us or that are not in alignment with who we are. So getting really clear on your principles and values, so important. It also helps you to get in alignment with who you are. So if you have a value of being compassionate, you are going to put forth the effort on a daily basis to practice that compassion. If showing up bold and powerful is important to you, then you're going to put forth the effort in being bold and powerful in your business or in your presentation or whatever it is that you're doing. And being in alignment with those values and principles helps us to feel good about who we are, to be confident in who we are, but also help us to be at peace with ourselves. So this leads me into the third way to cultivate peace in your life. So the third way for cultivating inner peace is resolving inner conflict. I mentioned earlier in this video that we cannot control what happens outside of us in our environment, always. Sometimes we can. But there are times where we have inner conflict and we may not recognize that the real problem is not the other person. It is not what other people are doing. It is because we have inner conflict. And so again, through mindfulness practices, as we tune in to ourselves, we can begin to recognize that actually, I have this conflict within myself and I need to resolve this conflict, and then I can be more centered, more present, and then take action on what's happening outside of me. I really like I like Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote, another quote where he says, "Five great enemies of peace inhabit us: avarice, which is greed; ambition, envy, anger, and pride." And I want to add on to that, fear. So there are times where if we stop and look within ourselves with compassion, without judgment, without shame, and recognize that we have a conflict, often this conflict is going to fall in one of these 6 categories. And again, that's fear, greed, envy, ambition, and pride and anger. And if we can see those conflicts within those categories, we can begin to explore what the conflict is with a sense of curiosity. You know, when we are practicing curiosity, there is no judgment. There is no shame. There is no, this is bad, this is good, this is right, this is wrong. It simply is like, this is interesting. Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel driven to do this? Or why do I have this belief that it should be like this? When we're practicing that curiosity, we actually drop judgment, drop shame, and open ourselves up into a place of objectivity where we can resolve this conflict. And that's one of the ways that coaches help, we coaches help our clients. When you have that, a client has a conflict within, we can help you walk through the steps in resolving that conflict so that you can move forward in achieving your goals and cultivating inner peace. So this leads to the 4th way that you can go about cultivating inner peace. I just talked about having inner conflict and discovering, oh my God, I'm human. I am jealous. I am angry. I'm full of pride. I'm overly ambitious. I'm greedy. These are all human qualities that we all experience. And it's so important in order for us to move forward and show up as our best selves, that we recognize these qualities within ourselves, but continue to love and have compassion for ourselves, regardless of what shows up. And so research shows that when you practice this next step, this step of self-compassion, that you're able to regain your balance a whole lot faster and move forward. In other words, it builds resilience. When we're judging and shaming ourselves, we stay down a lot longer because we're berating ourselves, we're depleting our energy, and this whole concept of punishing ourselves and judging ourselves kicks in. And it's a whole lot harder to work against judgment and shame. So research has shown that by practicing self-compassion, by continuing to give ourselves love, by recognizing, okay, I'm human and that's okay, we're able to get up a lot faster and move forward towards our goals and move because we're operating from a place of peace. So at the end of this video or in the description, there is a link to a practice of self-compassion. There's a self-compassion exercise, and I invite you to challenge yourself for 7 days to practice the breathing self-compassion exercise and learn how to give love to yourself on a daily basis and, decreasing this habit of berating, judging, shaming ourselves when these human qualities show up, so that we can be a force in the world for greater love and compassion for others. And the final and fifth step that I'm going to share with you on how to cultivate inner peace is called reframing. And I'm actually going to share various perspectives or concepts on this reframing idea. But ultimately, in order to reframe, we have to get to a place of acceptance. You know, life is just challenging sometimes. And if we can get to a place where we can accept that, okay, I am in a difficult situation here, I'm in a challenging situation, that's the first step that you want to take for reframing. And in this way, we open our minds up to possibilities, and reframing is about looking at other possibilities. So one of the things that you can do is ask yourself the question, what is it that I can possibly learn from this situation? Or what did I learn from that challenging situation? Life brings us challenges, but it also brings us gems. And it's up to us to see the gems that, that we've gained through those life experiences. And so we can reframe some challenging experiences that we've gone through and say, this is the lesson I learned and I'm so much wiser. And take that wisdom forward with you as you move forward on your journey to greater growth and greater success, and also share those gems with others. Another thing that you can do when you're in a situation that's challenging is ask yourself the question, what are my choices? And this is one of my favorite ones. And, in all honesty, it can be very challenging, especially when emotions are heightened, which is why mindfulness practices are so powerful and important, and self-awareness is powerful and important because you know your patterns, you know what triggers you, you understand what's happening in the moment. You can still your mind and ask yourself, what are my choices here? And, when you are in a place of heightened emotion and you're triggered and you're not centered, it's very hard to do that, to be able to pull yourself out of the part of the emotion brain and get into the logical brain and ask the question, what are my choices? What are my options? What can I do differently from what I've done in the past? But if you can practice mindfulness and be in a centered space, or get to a place where you can bring down those emotions and get centered and calm, and ask yourself the question, what can I do differently? What has not worked in the past? What are my choices? What are my options? You can make better choices and move forward and take action. And guess what? Regardless of the outcome, understanding that you consciously made a choice in that moment to take the action that you did do, you can be in a place of learning and growth and greater self-awareness. And I really believe that when we are in that place, then we do have an inner peace, because we're able to say, I've done the best that I could in that situation with the consciousness that I have. So those are 5 ways to cultivate inner peace. I'll go through them again. The first one is gain self-awareness, knowing your patterns, understanding what gives you energy, what drains you, what triggers you or stresses you out, what makes you happy. And number 2, live by your values and your principles. Get really clear on what those are and live by them to the best of your ability. The third one was resolve inner conflict. Remember, greed, ambition, fear, pride, anger. These qualities are usually what's going on within us when, there's some sort of conflict. If we can get really clear about those and resolve that conflict, we can have greater inner peace, get more centered, and The fourth one was practice self-compassion, which is very important when you're trying to resolve that inner conflict, but it's also a tool that you can use to just practice more loving kindness with yourself to create or cultivate more inner peace. And finally, number 5 was reframing, asking yourself, what are my choices? What are my options? And looking at ways on how you can go about taking action differently with greater intention and greater consciousness so that you can have inner peace regardless of the outcome. So those are the 5 ways that you can actively cultivate inner peace in your life. Remember, you don't have to sit around and wish for peace, hope that peace falls into your lap. Yes, there are going to be challenges and difficulties in your life. There are going to be times where you don't have peace, but at least you have 5 things that you can consider doing to actively, intentionally cultivate peace on a day-to-day basis, at least some part of your day. If you found this video to be helpful, I encourage you to please click like and to share. And also remember, I have a meditation, audio recorded meditation practice that I've created just for you. If you want to practice number 4, self-compassion on a regular basis to cultivate greater peace within your mind and within your heart and connect the two and be a leader of heart and mind, showing up in your community and your environment with more of who you actually are, then look for the link below and practice along with me, and feel free to share with me how your 7 days of self-compassion practice has impacted you. So until next time, be well, cultivate inner peace, be loving towards yourself, be mindful, and I look forward to sharing more content with you in the near future. Have a great day.